Okay, we're back. We're back. It is 11:12. The next meeting is at 11:15. I always forget it. Oh, here it is. Do that. Here it is. So here we are. $11:15. This is going to be, I know this is going to be a big conversation, and she only has it for 15 minutes. I want to take a bet it's going to be longer than that time. You watch. I got to remember this is down here. Remind me, folks. The agenda's down here. Keep forgetting. Oh, I could put it over here. I could put it over here. Since the chat isn't on. I don't want that. We're just going to do this. Okay, so let's see. Are there any? It's 11:30.
Recording in progress.
Here we go.
Agenda item, and you might have heard that. I just want to make a statement that this is being recorded, and we'll probably end up putting it on the website after next week. So keep that in mind. So this is a time for the proposal for the paid coordinator, Phillipsburg ambulance discussion. Who wants to be first?
I'd like to be first.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Your chair.
Yeah, we've been working on this for a long time, and me personally, I'm a little bit disappointed in the fact that I don't know if any hospital people are here or not, but we don't have them.
We might have Maria on.
Okay, there's one.
What's that?
And we didn't have any, or one was on Zoom in the last meeting. But anyway, we've been working on this, and it came up in that last meeting that I said that we were going to get $660,000 or $1,000, and we could use that. And I didn't say that. I said we might get that, and the paper didn't put that in there. So I don't know how much we're getting from this COVID bill that was passed, but I'm sure we'll get something. But I think the legislature is working on it, state legislature now. So we'll get something, and maybe we can use that to get this thing started.
I don't think so.
If that's what everybody wants. Blaine?
No, I think a coordinator would be a good idea. Yeah, getting the funding for it's an issue. So yeah, hopefully that would be a start. And but ultimately up to the commission. I was talking to a deputy yesterday, and he was talking about having issue continues. And his point was, why not put it to the voters for potential mill levy? So I was like, past the commissioners have talked about that. It maybe come to that point.
Okay.
My opinion still on hiring a coordinator, the people are still volunteers. So I mean, hiring somebody to tell a volunteer what to do.
He wouldn't be telling the volunteer. He would be coordinating. He's not going to tell the volunteer to do anything. Okay. No, I'm talking. He would have to know, or they would have to know, I don't know if he or not, but they would have to know that they don't have the authority. They have to come to us for the authority, and we're not going to give them the authority to order a volunteer, because you don't order volunteers. You coordinate with them. You try to get them in there. You see what their time schedules are and whatever. So
well, hopefully that coordinator could go on runs, or isn't that the thought?
Well, yeah, and a lot of the runs in the Phillipsburg area, they could go on those runs, and it's a coordinator. It's not a a boss. That's the way I see it. And like I say, they have to come to the commission. And as far as I'm concerned, they wouldn't have the
job description.
in the job description. Yeah, I think
Oh, the job description.
That's
Is that
right,
what we're
Sid.
talking
Okay,
about? The
so
job
I
description?
don't think we have the funds or the runs to have a full-time coordinator. The reason I say this is Billy did a lot of research, and you've got that in your
Billy did the
packet.
research.
And
Oh, that's good.
Phillipsburg Ambulance does not make the runs that Drummond Ambulance makes. I think it needs some reorganization with the Phillipsburg Ambulance, and there's ideas that are out there. So I want to begin with this job description that was given to us by our mayor. And what it states is that they would be under the supervision and the approval of an EMS director. Well, we don't have an EMS medical director. They say that the full-time position would be 52.5. Full-time position, that's an 8-hour day, 40-hour a week. And they compare that with Baker, which is a city in Fallon County, and they do have a full-time coordinator, but it's county-wide, and it is an enterprise fund. So they earn their money to pay this coordinator. Okay, so looking at the runs, we visited with Fallon County. Billy did some research,
He's
and
not looking
looking at the runs from Drummond, they're managing. Phillipsburg is not making any runs. So the reason I say full-time coordinator is we don't have the budget for it. We don't have the money for it. I know that it's very serious for you guys. You want a coordinator. And I know Mayor Reddish says, we need a coordinator, but you figure out the funds. So we can't fund you because, and then no offense, Mayor, but you want funds from us, right? So let's look at this as a working session with the hospital, with maybe the volunteer firefighters, with the community. Let's get to the community. Let's talk to the Chamber of Commerce. Get people saying, yes, this person can go on a run. Let's get the ambulance the training that they need. Yes, I agree, giving them money. They're having a training coming up, and they need money for it. And I'm all for giving them money to do the training. But a full-time coordinator, we just don't have it. So here's another question. We did a mock budget. The Phillipsburg Ambulance has 1.6 meals that they're allowed. That's all they're certified for. And meal is like, I think, $8,000. So they get $14,000 a year budget. They would need to pay for this coordinator $7,000 a month in runs to even balance the budget. They don't make any runs. So what I understand too is they have, and don't mind me if my voice is, but you can hear me good, can't you?
Becky Mickey is on.
yes.
They have an ambulance that is sitting out at the ranch at Rock Creek.
Thank you.
And it didn't make a run to an accident that happened there on the Rock Creek Road. The ambulance had to come from town. Seriously. So this is a community effort. This is something that we need to do. Here, the Deer Lodge, the hospital in Deer Lodge is the medical director and handles the ambulance. Why can't our hospital, why can't we find staff to do that? There is Anaconda Deer Lodge County. They work with the volunteer firefighters on their ambulance. So we need people, but we also need reorganization with that Phillipsburg ambulance because Drummond is fine. They do not want a coordinator. They manage to do their runs, and Phillipsburg doesn't. So we'll be
Not, I mostly agree with you, everything you said, but we do need a coordinator, whether it's full-time, part-time, we need a coordinator. And that's why this other commission, before you were here, we were trying to get the hospital to go in because they need help there and maybe we could have traded, but they obviously do not want to talk to us. You can't get them to. And so, I mean, so it's kind of up to us, the county. And I'm pushing for having a coordinator if we have to come up with these other funds to start it off and get it going, or part-time, you know, but we need a coordinator.
Okay, you're talking
Most
coordinator. I'm saying not full-time. I'm saying we absolutely can't. I'm saying we need more community effort and if not funds, then manpower to get calls. Say, for example, I see city crew here. I also see the chief firefighter, chief volunteer fire chief.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any members on the EMT? Are they EMT members? Or are they on the ambulance crew?
There's one driver, but he's not a medic. No.
See, this, we need to recruit. We need to work ground up. What's wrong with our president? Is he here somewhere?
He never comes.
No.
No.
He's in I invited him, he's in New Mexico.
How many people do they have on the roster?
We don't know. We have no idea. And I think this is something they're supposed
They
to.
said they had 28 or something.
Yeah, there was
We never.
Yeah, there was an article in the newspaper, I don't know, a year ago, they had like 58 people.
When you look at the people
He's
that
a
they
call
paid when
person.
we was doing that COVID stuff, then you
I
got to
don't know
turn
who
out
this
there,
one
but then
is.
after.
Lisa
boom,
M.
I don't know who, I don't even know who's on the ambulance up here.
Yeah, I hear lots of chatter from lots of people, we need more volunteers. Well,
We don't know who they're
I
talking
bet you if you
to.
looked at the roster, they probably got 30, 40, 50 people on there, they just don't come. So why they're on the roster, I don't know. We need to start over.
That's my opinion, wipe the slate clean, start
there
over, and
anybody
start a whole new
else?
ambulance thing down here and see. We have to have somewhere to start, and I agree, the coordinator probably could help. The funding's gonna kill it. I mean, but if we could even start over to have somebody that's gonna be more wanting to do stuff than come in and just complain about, well, we went to this house 5 times. Well, I'm sorry, you know, that's just the way it is.
Sure.
You know, you can't, one time you don't go and the guy didn't.
Adolf is
I
there.
mean, we're in a position that there's elderly people, and, you
Well,
know,
he was.
it's just, I think wipe the damn thing clean, start over.
See, they don't know. Oh,
I
here
agree,
he
but
is.
you need a coordinator. You need somebody to do that job. I mean, it's not gonna work if you don't.
Oh, here
You
he is.
need
He's
an
got his hand.
organization.
There he is.
Phillipsburg ambulance needs to be reorganized. The president is supposed to be the coordinator.
Yeah, but they're not getting paid.
Well,
They're all volunteer. Would you do it? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it if, like nobody would volunteer and I had, and it's all my time.
Volunteers not getting paid, you know, they got people mad for the fire department. I mean, I don't think it's so much about the pain as that we don't have nobody that really wants to do a damn thing.
See?
And that's why if you had a coordinator
They're
and they can make
apparently
runs,
talking
well,
to the people that are in
basically lots of
prison,
times they would
they're
need
not
a
talking to
driver
us.
and them. And why wouldn't that work? Why not?
You need to reorganize from the bottom up. You don't need someone from the top trying to organize and get people to
I think
make
that is from the
runs.
bottom up, because he has nobody else, and he'd be number one, and he'd have to work his
There's
way up and
Jordan
get.
White.
So what you're saying is if we wipe it clean, then who is gonna be there to start it back up?
Right, and then build
See, you
build
have
it
two
back
people
up,
with
because
their
are you,
hands up, but
who of us
the
is gonna
chair
do that?
hasn't opened them
If
up,
you don't fill the
So
required
you're-
hours at the fire department, you're out.
is not gonna
That's
mention
it.
them.
That's the way it should be.
But they're talking to the people
We
that
can't
are
get
there.
caught up
He hasn't opened it up
in
to the
something
public,
happening,
has he?
and then
Nope.
people come in and say, okay, what are your training hours? And people are awesome about it. They train. They work really hard to keep their hours, you know? That's 28 people. It's a lot of folks.
So I know, Robert Madoff called me and he's passionate about it.
Always awesome.
And he feels that
He's
he's,
actually on Zoom right now and would like to join the
Okay.
discussion if you guys want to recognize him.
What's that?
Robert's actually on Zoom and would like to join
He
the
didn't open it
discussion.
up
If
for
you guys
public
would
comment,
like
did
to
he?
Yeah, just let her finish going, then we can take the comments.
So he was saying that, well, he's in favor of a coordinator, yes,
You're
but
taking
I said, what
comments.
about a
You're
new
talking
president?
to
And he
somebody,
didn't
aren't
make
you?
the comment. I'm going, I think we need organized. I think we have a
I think
whole
y'all
bunch
need
of
to
people
get
up
trained
there
on
at
how to
Rancho
conduct a
Rock
meeting.
Creek that are on this ambulance crew and they're not making the runs. I honestly think this is a community effort. We honestly need to work with our people. We had a committee that went out. What did they come back with? Did we hear anything from them? What did
Basically
they think?
nothing.
Huh?
Basically nothing.
So that's why we need to get together with the community. Like with you, Mayor, you feel, yes, we do need a coordinator. I think we
Oh, the
need to start
mayor's
with the
there.
guts and reorganize the
Oh,
Phillipsburg
she's
ambulance.
talking to the mayor.
Because Drummond ambulance is fine.
See?
They're happy. They do not
She's
want to
talking to
coordinate.
them.
They'll quit.
But looking at this chart, I mean, I don't know if you can put it up on the screen or not, but see the comparable county is in orange, and that's Baker.
Oh, yeah.
And the runs are clear up here. And then you have Drummond, who is gold, and you see their
Blue.
runs, and then you have Peaburg in
Yeah,
blue.
Drummond's blue.
I have the
Is
one
it?
from the website. up.
Did you do Drummond blue?
I have the one from the website.
So what are you saying, Black? So what are you saying?
What am I saying?
So where's the
I'm
runs?
saying we need to reorganize the ambulance.
I know.
I think we need to
Why
get
don't she put it
training
up
for
there?
EMTs and start from there. I don't think we cannot afford to fund a coordinator.
We
don't
can't
have the
afford
money,
not to
is
fund
what
the
I'm saying.
coordinator.
We don't.
I mean,
have
that is
Go
a
to the
basic of
runs.
a
Here's the
government,
runs.
protect the people. And we can't afford not
Here's the runs.
to fund that
So why don't you
position.
put
What,
it on this screen and
you know, we're
share
getting
it?
extra money for
Share
COVID.
screen, right? Here's the
And we can
runs.
start off with that.
Well, let's
And then
start
we
off
talking about.
organizing it before we think we can get money from COVID to support it.
Well,
It
no, let's
needs
just
to-
keep working on it and then
needs
we're
to
gonna get
be
some money.
a working ambulance, not one that's sitting laying without anything,
I know, but
not making runs.
do those red lines, do they have a coordinator?
Yes, they do.
Well,
But guess what? They're an enterprise fund and they have
Runs.
runs 100-1 compared to our runs.
exactly, because they have a coordinator.
Because they're an enterprise fund, it's paying for itself. It's, the county isn't paying
That's what
for
we
it.
gotta work
Oh, look, they had a
towards.
whole bunch
But
of
if we
runs.
have the runs,
You gotta
you know,
work.
you look back in the old days, you know, we were getting $50,000 for Peaburg making runs and
That was very, very.
but that's when they were making,
Yeah.
that's when we had dedicated people and they were making runs.
See,
Yeah, and
this
they were
should be a
volunteers.
And they were
working session.
volunteers.
So that's the
This is
problem.
And then,
should be.
and then it died
The
out.
time
That's
is
why you need the coordinator
11:29.
to,
Didn't I
yes,
make a
you do.
bet with you? This is
Not
gonna be
full-time
going
coordinator, no,
fast.
you
Okay, I want to open up the Zoom.
Oh,
Okay,
we're gonna open
so
up the
first
Zoom.
off, I have Robert, so let me get him to unmute.
What's that?
Sorry, I have Robert, I'm just getting him to unmute, he was my first Zoom person.
Hello.
Hi, Robert.
Hi. I just wanted to, say that I was here on behalf of the ambulance. So someone is here for the ambulance. Patrick is in New Mexico. I do agree we might need some sort of a coordinator or other anchor person. I'd love to see a volunteer step up to do that. Patrick has done a whole lot. If he's willing or someone else to take the reins here, that would be great. Alternatively, a paid position or a position that is shared with another already funded county position, whichever one might make sense, public health nurse, emergency coordinator, etc. That, and then training, I looked into best practice medicine out of Bozeman or potentially some other options seem to run about $8,000 to $10,000 to do an EMT course. That's another option on the table to try to get some new blood into the organization.
Yeah, they have a grant, right? Right, Robert?
We have a grant for one that probably that grant will get funded and line out for fall or winter time. Another thought would be to try to do another one sooner. I don't know if there's funding for that anywhere or not. We have people apparently lined up that are willing to take the course. We can get that done in the fall, or we can try to hire one out for summertime and then do another one in the fall or winter with the grant money if there's funding for such a thing. Either or, we can certainly wait until fall. It's just obviously the sooner the better.
I think Jamie said there's funding for doing a July course.
Oh, wow. Okay. Having talked to Jamie, I thought it was further out than that, like fall or winter, but if that's the case, then that's wonderful.
I might misunderstood. I'll follow up with her though.
But Robert, here's the thing. I think all three commissioners are in agreement that we would help with getting EMTs trained. This is something that is a community project, and it's something that is vital for the Phillipsburg ambulance.
Thank you.
This would be something we can discuss, but I know that the three commissioners want this. They want Phillipsburg ambulance to thrive and survive.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. And if there's a grant out there that's...
The subject is whether we're gonna have a coordinator or not. And let's get back on the subject. The training, we can do that later.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with you. Okay, but I want to get back on the subject of the coordinator, and I want to hear what everybody has to say. And somebody has, Jordan White has, go ahead, Jordan.
All right, hold on, I have to get into that.
So, in regards to this coordinator, EMS in general is kind of a family atmosphere. And this coordinator is working with the volunteers, coming to you guys saying, hey, this is what we need. They're going out in the community saying, hey, this is what we need in the community. What do you guys want from us? I want to put on EMT courses there that will be little to no cost for the ambulance that can recruit people and train them up to volunteer instead of having to rely on outside classes or people coming in to pay out. If you had somebody there full time that could put together an EMT course, can put together managing the budget of the ambulances, running the call volume. I mean, right now, you're looking at the budget from 2020. How many calls were gone that were missed? Nobody answered the call. I mean, back in 2010, 2011, 12, there were calls being answered, runs were being submitted, and the budget was being done. And then as you go throughout the years, you can see where we're starting to see missed calls, and the money's not coming out. Where's the money been for the last few years? If calls are being ran, that money should be around the same as it was 10 years ago, probably even a little more, if the call volume is increasing.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Jordan.
Okay, I have a comment to make. Your job description was very impressive. I think it fits a community the size of Missoula. It does not fit a community the size of Phillipsburg. What I said originally is that we cannot fund a full-time coordinator. And so we need to go to the grassroots and start over again. So I myself feel we cannot fund a coordinator right at this time.
Yeah,
Coordinator, would you consider a halftime coordinator?
No, we need to regroup and figure out what we're doing.
That's
We
what
don't
we're
have
doing.
the
That's what we're
funds
doing
even
right
for a
now.
halftime coordinator.
That's what we're trying to do,
We
Blanche.
do not have the funds. Okay, right now, you're saying we want a coordinator. I'm saying we don't have the funds or the runs.
We do
for
have
a
the funds.
coordinator.
If we get that extra COVID money,
If you get it.
we'll get it. We don't know how much.
So you want to lay a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches?
No, I want to get it going. And then just exactly like Jordan was saying, and once we get the calls up
Mickey
and
was on.
people start
I
making
bet
the
you
runs
she's
and they
walking
start
out.
billing the
Oh, no, she's
insurance,
still there.
then it could
She's still there.
possibly
You're
even.
starting from the top down. You need to work from the bottom up.
Oh,
But how do you-
time is
that is from the
11:35.
bottom up.
For the ambulance.
11:35.
This is not going to work. We're not. You say yes, I say no. Plain and simple. You're not going to convince me that we can afford one because we cannot.
So you want to continue the way we're going and people will die?
No. And
No,
no,
that's going to happen.
no.
Yes,
You're
it is.
way off base
No,
there.
I'm not.
No, it is not going to
No, I'm
happen.
not.
You
You're
gotta
saying-
realize too that, you're sitting here going on saying that it's gonna start there. Taking this class, it ain't gonna be done in 1 week.
No.
You know how long these classes go, and then they gotta go take another test, and, so as coordinators, what's he do during that time?
What do you mean?
These people are taking all this.
Okay, the Forest Service hires an EMT and they volunteered as long as they're working out there, and it's probably 6 months or whatever, that they can make runs too. So you got the coordinator, you got them for 6 months, and then work into other people filling in. I mean, you can't say, well, this is not going to work.
It
This
isn't.
isn't working. What we're doing now
Okay,
is not working.
This is what we need to discuss. This is where we need to come together and say, okay, budget time, can we put this position with maybe a county health nurse? Maybe hire a full-time county health nurse that would also be willing to be the EMS director. Or look at the hospital again and say, can the hospital help us? It's going to benefit them too. Or even the volunteer fire department. I mean, all these little things, let's get some ideas. We've got a couple months before budget, get it worked together, and then look at what we can afford. Right now, I am saying we cannot afford a full-time.
And that's why we need the hospital to step up, because that's exactly what we were talking about.
Agree on that, Chuck.
Huh?
There isn't one of us that don't agree on that hospital stepping up. But until the hospital steps up, because they're the ones, wanting transports and that, and then they take the service out of town for their transport, and they're making the money off it.
Exactly.
Why in the hell can't they step up?
Exactly. I mean, and
Why aren't here on that
I thought
coordinator, why
Maria
don't
would
they
step
throw
in.
in half or something?
good.
Exactly.
There you go.
Because the county can't afford it.
Well, that last meeting we had with
See,
the
now
town,
what
they
happened?
potentially said that
We go
It
back
would.
and forth.
Maria's
So-
trying to join the conversation.
who?
Maria Stockwood.
Oh,
No,
Maria,
it's
go ahead.
It's the difference between a director and a coordinator too. The director is the
this is why they
doctor.
do a meeting.
And Dr. Ryder, I believe, wanted to do that. So we're looking at coordinator.
Maria?
Yes, you're asking for the hospital to step up, but
Yeah.
you have not made it clear to me what you want us to do.
Thank you.
And we would like to help. We want to be part of this conversation. And yes, I completely agree with Blanche that, there is some reorganization that needs to be done, and perhaps consider paying or stipending or in some way reimbursing your participants, so that because volunteerism is really hard right now. So, they're going to need to be compensated. But I keep hearing that you want, the hospital to step up and address this situation, but in no way have you indicated how you want us to help.
Yes, we
or
did. We've been
what-
saying over and over. We've been
what
saying
is
over. Blanche has said it. Blanche has said it. She said to work part-time with the hospital and part-time with the coordinator as a coordinator. And then
What
you
would
could
you
have
like
your,
do?
what?
I mean, they're not certified. They're not certified to be a CNA. They're not. They don't have any clinical certification. A nurse or nurse or a CNA in any way. What would they do during the
So we
day?
can't hire anybody that would qualify for the coordinator that would qualify with the hospital. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. I said, I'm asking you. If you're asking us to fund part-time employment of this coordinator, I don't know what you would expect them to do here in the hospital, because they would have to be someone who could potentially leave at any point if you want them to participate in taking ambulance calls.
And that's exactly why we wanted to talk to the people of the hospital. But, I had to go up to their meeting. They would never come here to talk to me or
Well, I'm
us.
here. I've been here.
No, I
But
haven't
we
seen
just
it
need a clear vision. We just need a clear vision as to what the expectation is. And, that there's been superficial conversation, but not anything definitive as to, what do we think this person could possibly do here? When they would be someone who would
Well,
have
let's
to
figure
leave
it
at a
out. I
moment's
mean,
notice.
let's figure something out. That's what you got to talk about. I don't know.
You're talking about a potential nurse that could be a coordinator. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, if it
Well,
was a
we're
nurse,
That or somebody that could do anything in the hospital that could be paid part-time. Well, that's what I originally thought. That's what we originally thought, I think. And then these guys were saying, well, no, it should be a full-time. And then it probably could be a full-time. So it'd be less for the hospital and more for us.
There's a couple of people that work at the hospital that don't come to the calls.
Really, that are
They're
EMTs?
EMTs.
Yeah, did you hear that? There's a couple of people at the hospital that don't even make the calls.
we have one person who works in the business office and they're not always able to leave their station. I mean, our employees are actually really busy and they don't always have the opportunity to be able to get away.
Well, nobody does. Nobody has, everybody has a job to do or something. And so, okay, thanks, Maria. We'll talk to Elena next.
But give me some
Yeah.
suggestions. I'm more than willing to have a discussion, but I just need some ideas. Not just, saying that the hospital should be stepping up without any suggestion as to in what way.
Well, do you think we need a coordinator?
I don't know. I mean, do you know your number of calls? Do you know your number of EMTs that you have?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
Yes.
And we don't need a coordinator.
Right. Would it partially sustain itself? I mean, even if it was a part-time person, could it sustain itself?
Well, it's not going to if we don't try it. Elena?
Hold on, I gotta ask. You actually had Jordan next on the list. I'm taking them down in order.
Oh, I'm still not
Okay.
getting unmuted.
You pick
Didn't we already speak with Jordan?
Yeah, but you have another comment. I'm taking them down in order.
Well, he can wait, can't he? Because he's already commented.
Sorry, I unmuted him. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going with Elena right now. Elena, you speak
Yeah. I'm her. We're good.
and cut it short. You got 3 minutes.
Fine, I'll cut it real short. I kind of agree with Blanche, what she said earlier. This should be a work session. It should be done on a certain day after 5 so that everybody that's interested here can attend and have the conversation. Also, I remember that the commissioners were going to take turns attending the hospital board meetings. And so that would be a good idea also. But I think this should be done after hours as a work session. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there's 10 people sitting in the room here. So
So next we have Carl.
next is Carl. Go ahead, Carl.
So there's 10 people sitting here. Carl doesn't know how to do this. Right?
How do you?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it real quick. Number one, yes, there is a need for reorganization. I don't like the fallback that we can't afford it, because to me, a life is worth more than $60,000-$70,000. When people move to this community, they assume that ambulance service is available and probably assume it's through the hospital. We have to do something for this community. Life is more important. I agree with Chuck. People are willing to sit down after 5 and hammer this stuff out, because I think if you look at criteria for budgeting, this should be number
I was
one
the
on
one
your
that
budget.
suggested
People
that.
will die because
Thank you.
the ambulance did not respond. Is there litigation against the county? I don't know. There could be. Thank you.
Thanks. I totally agree too.
All right, next up we
Can
have.
I make a comment on his?
We're doing Zoom
comment?
right now. Go ahead.
Okay,
We got people in here.
you can make comments, but I can't make comments.
I got to run this thing.
Oh, okay.
See this?
Next up we have
Need is
Becky.
training.
Hi, I was just curious, for those of you who believe that we need a coordinator, are you willing to volunteer for that coordinator position, or are you also even willing to become a certified EMT and start making runs yourselves? There's no age limit on who can be an EMT or who can make these runs. You guys want this ambulance service? Well, then our retirees need to step up and start making it happen.
Greg, any more? Any
you,
other on
Becky.
Zoom?
Well, those of us that are working have to be at work. So,
Okay.
I mean, our population in this county is getting old. And those of us that are working have to be at work. And those of you who are retired is a viable option.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Blanche.
May I make a comment on that? Okay, Becky, what we propose is, let's talk to the community. Let's let the people that are EMTs to take off and still get paid from their employer. That's what Granite County does. Granite County lets their EMTs go on runs. And I'm sure the Phillipsburg does the same thing. I mean, this is something that's very important. Let's talk to the community to do this too. I mean,
Drummond.
retired people are old. I'm one of them.
Speak for yourself.
And we don't have the stamina that young people do, and we know that young people have to work.
I agree with that. Okay, let's have it in the
Becky
room.
back on.
Who?
Becky's on again.
Who?
Becky, responding to your comment, Blanche.
Okay, make it quick.
You
We
said
have to
her
go through
last
the room.
name.
I understand that, Blanche. I really do. However, there are days in this office, or like Maria said, there are times where her staff is just not able to leave, and that is across the board. I think that a lot of the issue is when you look at our other volunteer agencies, like our ambulance, or like Drummond Ambulance, or
It's
Valley Fire, or
11:47.
Peaburg Fire. You know, they have camaraderie. They are getting together monthly. They're having meetings. They're having fundraising events. They're having clam feeds and elk feeds, and they're a group of people who truly like each other and who want to be there to support each other. Nobody wants to see their friend run to a fire alone. They just don't want to. You don't have that with the Phillipsburg ambulance system. And I think if you had a little bit more camaraderie there, it would help a lot.
I agree. Okay, thanks. Let's open it up to the room. Anybody that wants to talk, come on up so we can all hear you.
Say your name. That'd be nice.
Mayor Daniel Reddish. First off, I'd like to thank the commissioners for entertaining this conversation. I think I've been pretty clear about my perspective on it with respect to the need for a paid. I'm going to stop right there because I'm not going to give it a name. I've heard coordinator, I've heard administrator, I've heard all these terms. We don't know exactly what this person is going to do. It hasn't been spelled out yet. The question today is there a need for one? We have to determine what the boundaries of this position will be. We have some stuff from Fallon County. When the numbers are going up 50, 70,000, this isn't Fallon County. So while that's a template and something to examine, those numbers aren't applicable here. We're much slower in terms of wages here. And so I think that you can adjust money-wise to the situation. It doesn't have to mimic that exactly. Here's the real important thing to me. I'm going to refer to this position as a first responder. We need a paid first responder. You can list all the administrative process, all the things that need to be done, the billing, the paperwork, the training, the physical plan, all of that stuff, right down to shining the hubcaps. That person is the person who goes out. That's the trained person who is the first responder, who has a cadre of motivated and disciplined volunteers built around knowing that that anchor person is there. They're getting paid to be there. They're a professional. And that person's level of qualification can increase with education. The town is willing to step up to the degree that we're proportionately able to do that with respect to those things. But you have to look at it in terms of the bottom line, operations. That person gets the call and goes and opens his phone and starts the volunteer process to assist, whether it's a driver or another EMT assistant or whatever. You need the first responder. That's how I look at it. It's a first responder. Maybe that first responder eventually ends up being an auxiliary deputy, something like that. But I do not think that the status quo can be maintained. And I don't believe you guys think that either. There's no point in pouring milk into the bottom of a bucket when there's a hole in the bucket. There's just no point in that. Something structurally, and again, I think we all agree that something structurally, fundamentally structurally has to change. There's a disagreement about whether or not it's a paid position. Well, we haven't even defined what that position looks like or what that pay might look like, that compensation. So I'm here to tell you that I'm fully supportive of this, of a paid first responder that's down at that nice building and is doing everything related to the work, including fundraising, including grant writing, including community support, including public relations. I have emails that say, why don't you spread the word around that we need volunteers? Well, why doesn't the person who tells me to do that do that? What, isn't there an administrator? I'm sort of half into this in terms of what I know, so I don't want to go too far out on a limb with respect to, there's a lot I don't know about this. I don't know that there's this is the president's responsibilities. Well, in the bylaws, there is no listed responsibilities. It just says president, vice president, and secretary, treasurer. There's nothing attached to what their obligations are. So to me, I'll end by saying we need a first responder. They need to be paid. If that individual if you can't find the funds for that single position, then there needs to be another position that is hybridized onto that position. It doesn't necessarily have to be the hospital. It could be associated with some other public works undertaking. So that person, they could plow snow part-time. And when the call goes out, as long as they're within the realm of town, there's a way to fix this. And there's also a way to finance it, I believe. I can't give you an example right now, but I'm more than willing to participate in that examination. So.
Okay, thanks. No, I want these guys to talk.
16 people.
But I'm going to interject one thing.
See?
The bill for the pension is probably going to come off the table tomorrow. So, and
I would
hopefully have
say for the record that I did communicate with the head of MACO.
What's that?
I did communicate with the head of MACO about that. I followed up on that, about that bill. And I haven't heard back from him, but I did follow up and with a real detailed background of what's going on the ground here. So for what?
Well, anyway, it was amended a little bit, and it's supposed to come out tomorrow at the vote on committee. So there might be an increase in the Good Samaritan amount we could pay for the volunteers. Anyway, anybody else want to speak?
What bill?
Hi, I'm Dwayne Ulrich. I'm on the town council. I volunteered on the ambulance for several years. When I worked for the county did let me respond on calls and getting paid unless I was at the container site, because it was hard to close the container site down and go. So that worked. I got to the point that I got so burnt out because at that time there were 3 members that were responding to 90% of the calls. Jason Wingo, Jordan White, and me.
Who's me?
It burns a person out. The other thing I want to bring up is we had an LAPC meeting Thursday. Scott brought up that Phillipsburg right now is running on 10% of their call out. In other words, for every 10 calls, they respond to 1. So that's why the run list is down. He also said that Drummond is responding to 50% of their calls.
That's not good.
What's that?
That's not good either.
That's not good either. That's a lot better than what Phillipsburg is doing. But to say there's not some problems in Drummond is not correct if they're only responding to 50% of their calls.
I don't think we're saying that there's not the problem.
Yes.
They just don't want to coordinate.
Right.
They're saying that if you get coordinated, they both.
So we throw so we're going to throw the rest of the county out because Drummond doesn't want to coordinate.
But it's hard for somebody that's working a full-time job or supporting their family to leave on a run. I was retired or semi-retired at the point. I had to quit when my wife got so sick I couldn't leave the house. I'm willing to get back on as a driver. It needs organization because even when it was up here and it was running good, there was no real chain of command. That ambulance, I responded to a call up there to have an empty tank of fuel in the ambulance, which is totally unacceptable. Needs to be somebody that's responsible so when they get the call, that bus is ready to run.
Thanks. Anybody else? No, I agree. Thanks. Anybody else want to talk?
Yes, please. Scott Lyons, Phillipsburg Town Council. I do believe that we need a paid coordinator. I don't care what you call it. If we come up with another descriptor so that Drummond finds it more palatable, okay, that's fine. So dictionary is a big book. Okay. The top-down, bottom-up argument seems to me that they're both slightly, it doesn't matter what you call it. You want to talk to the community, we're here. Being on the town council, nobody shows up. Everyone bitches at me when I go to the brewery. I said, you know what? Show up. We're here, right? This is the largest meeting, except for the rumor about raising park fees that I've ever seen, right? In my 2.5 years on the town council. We have to have someone who is responsible for coordinating this reorganization, right? And there's no better way to make someone responsible
than
to have them paid and have their responsibility spelled out on paper and have it signed. And I will tell you right now that the descriptor that Jordan put out is very well thought out. You already have the volunteer ready to do that job. And I promise you, because I talked to the mayor about that,
volunteer to do a job.
Phillipsburg will work with the county to pay for this position. We're not asking the county to come up with $60,000 a year in perpetuity. That's not what we're asking.
No.
But I will tell you right now, it is my opinion that we need someone to coordinate this reorganization effort. And it can't be someone who's working 30 minutes away in the next watershed over, who can't leave because he gets paid to stay there. It needs to be somebody else who is here and is paid to do that and that only. Thank you.
Okay, I want to make a comment, quick one. I did not say we don't want to, I said full-time coordinator. We need to work on it. We work on it with maybe the county health, work on it with other programs, possibly work with the hospital, work with, I'm saying the community. I'm saying that this job description does not fit Phillipsburg Ambulance. Maybe possibly countywide, toned down, but you have Drummond Ambulance that doesn't want to be a part of it. So we have to work around that. I'm not saying no coordinator. Let's work on it. Let's work on the whole system and fix it.
Okay, anybody else want to speak?
My response is, who's going to do that? And my point is, it needs to be that person you're paying to do that. That's
getting
my
close to lunch.
Sam Dennis, I'm Public Works Director and Assistant Fire Chief. Dave and I have been helping the ambulance for a lot of years. When there's no one, it's usually us. A lot of times it's my crew that pick old people up off the floor in town. And then we've never let it really bother us much. It's great that we're able to leave work. We're here to help the community. I think a coordinator is a good thing, possibly, like a paid fire chief in a lot of communities. They have one of those that organizes the volunteers, but it's a slippery slope because the volunteers are going to be looking at that guy going, well, he's getting paid. I'm not going. It's tough, but I think it could be worked on. I don't know how the COVID stipend worked last year. I think they made most of their calls. So it's kind of a pay issue, it looks to me like. Phillipsburg Ambulance has some fine medics. They just don't show up. Maybe it's not worth their while financially. It's too bad that we couldn't have a meeting like this with them, or a few of them, and say, what's wrong? Why aren't you coming? You're a very good medic. Can you not leave the Ranch at Rock Creek to do non-Ranch at Rock Creek stuff? Why is Phillipsburg's ambulance out there? The community owns it. The community pays the insurance for the rig. It kind of looks like it's maybe slipped into the Ranch at Rock Creek's private ambulance service that's being paid for by the taxpayers of this county. And that's a sad thing. I think this is a big undertaking. It's but like Lance said, it's got to be a community-driven thing. And I think, maybe a combo like the DES safety coordinator, something like that, the chief of the ambulance service, but you need the volunteers still. And if it's money that gets them, like a stipend, if you make the run, you get $75, something like that. That might be the encouragement to get them going.
And hopefully this bill will pass, and because the Good Samaritan law is going to be raised, and the retirement thing.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear this conversation. It's been coming for a long time. And some of those runs that we've done where no one shows up, those are scary because you're making decisions for people and you're not trained to do that. You're loading them in private cars and hauling them to the hospital. It puts us in kind of a bad spot. So I'm glad this is coming up, and I think we got a lot of smart people.
Thank you. I just want to say something. This is a budget thing. Let's look at that FEC money. Can we redirect that when the contract is up to throw into that?
We're just thinking the same thing.
Can we?
You read my mind. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. This is this is a budget work in progress. We want to succeed, but we also want our volunteers to be there. And if there's a stipend, if we can fund that, hey, I'm all for that too. I don't mind. I know
You can't use the FEP monies, but you could do a combined.
you could throw FEP money in with maybe the county health. Let's look at that. Let's get an RN possibly that could possibly be the EMS director. Let's work together. I'm just saying it can't be a full-time position. It just isn't feasible for Phillipsburg ambulance. We're only half a county. We only get so much money. And like I said earlier, the $7,000 a month just to fund, to balance the budget without even reserve. We just don't have it.
Well, to me, it's not a money issue. I mean, we could come up with money one way or the other. I mean, we got Bill to, I mean, I hate to spend Bill, but if it comes down, I've been out there helpless. My wife called and I was down on the ground. I crawled into the house in a blizzard, okay? And it's not fun. And she didn't know what to do. And you're helpless. And if you don't have an ambulance coming, what are you going to do? And all these people are moving in, all these places, all these subdivisions, and they're like older, a lot. And
rainy days.
It's not a money thing to me. We can come up with the money.
Soft money, you got to have hard money. I understand supplementing it until it pays for itself. I'm okay with that, but it's got to pay for itself.
I agree. Eventually, but not to start off. I mean, we got to work.
Well, what you want, starting off, let's pay a full-time coordinator to try to get this off the ground. And like I said before, you're putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches. We need to reorganize and work it some way where the money's coming from all different areas. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes. I'm John Orgay. I'm on the town council. These are the people you're talking about. When they call,
somebody on the town
they expect somebody to show up saying, oh, gee, we didn't have the money, or we couldn't find the money, or we couldn't adjust the job. Ain't going to cut it when somebody dies. Not yet. Not yet. But what about next week? When somebody calls and nobody shows up. And then what about the guy that does show up from Public Works who has no idea what's going on inside that body? We need somebody on the other end of that phone. You must put somebody on the other end of that phone. We rely on it. The new people that are coming here rely on it. And saying we don't have the money or we couldn't get a job description, ain't gonna cut it when we're all up at the cemetery. So you've already said, well, it's a Band-Aid. That means you recognize it's a wound. Somebody's gotta be there to put that Band-Aid on because at least it's a Band-Aid.
One thing I can counter is say it's just as much on the town as it is on the county. So it's working together. I mean, it's not.
We're here.
I know, but it's not you. It's we. Let's say it's we.
Well, it's not. It's not.
Because we're the ones that call.
It's not. We got more into it than the city does, but still, they have a portion.
Everyone has a duty here.
Yeah.
My point is, you can't ignore it because
we're not
we don't have the
ignoring
money.
it. We're not. I'm not ignoring it at all.
Well, we don't have the money. We're going to have to work on it.
It has to be worked
Meantime,
on. You have to crunch the numbers no matter what.
people are still calling. We need to do something now.
Well,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thank
Do
you.
we have an additional Zoom hand up if Jordan wants to speak again?
Yeah, Jordan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I just want to bring up just that as far as having it put on either DS coordinator, county health nurse and all that, this thing is full-time because to put on an EMT course, you're talking about 3 months of training, coordinating people that can come in, help with the training, help with the testing, talking about handling the finances as far as when a call comes through. That's full-time dealing with that. There's other billing agencies out there that do look at the run run calls, and they look at where an ambulance can revenue more money out of the run calls or whatever. They kind of consult you. There's a Pitler billing service out of Eureka, Montana, which is a good system that Laurel kind of went to. And after they went to that a few years later, they went to having a full-time paid director and 4 full-time paid EMTs that work collaboratively with the volunteer EMTs.
It's a debate.
And they work together hand in hand. As far as the hospital in Granite County, a solution might be looking at them at coming up with a contract of like a base pay that when a call is answered, they're willing to pay that base pay for the ambulance to take the call. And instead of billing the patient for that, just turn around and bill the hospital and bring that revenue into the ambulance. I don't know if that's something to even look at with the hospital as far as with that base pay, using it to help support the stipend fund for the volunteers and or a payment fund for the volunteers. If you can have somebody that can sit down, look at grant opportunities, look at the managing the runs. If a call comes through, this coordinator's already guaranteed to be there from 9 to 4 or 9 to 5, whatever. And so in that time, they've got their 40 hours that they're there to make sure calls are being run, trainings are being met, meeting agendas are being met, and then eventually working with the volunteers. I'm coming up with a Monday through Friday, 12 hours at day to 12 hours at night being covered by volunteers, and then 24-hour coverage on the weekends.
Yeah, sounds good.
You like the way he told me, make it quick?
But
Even if you're not able to do full-time at the start, I mean, yeah, work, getting a person in there and then building it up to that could be a possibility as well.
Exactly.
Another Zoom comment. Where you go?
Who is it?
They put their hand down before I could read their name. Oh wait, no. Ed Brunswell.
Go ahead, Ed.
Hello. I just want to support you guys in this conversation, and I think it's a very important thing to do. 2 years ago, we had to haul a neighbor who was suffering from internal bleeding. We couldn't get an ambulance. We took that person to the hospital ourselves. Yeah, this is a real need, and I appreciate that there's so much community support for taking this problem on, and I hope you guys get a good resolution soon. It's a need. As far as making the ambulance pay for itself, I don't think that should be a primary goal here. It's not a business. You guys don't have volunteers taking care of your roads, and you do have a road supervisor. You don't have volunteer road graders that just decide on a day what they're going to do and how much training they're going to get. This is a serious thing. It needs to be coordinated, and I think a coordinator is a great way to start. If you can find a way to fund it, I think it's a great idea. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks. Okay, if there's nobody else, one more comment.
Talk about community involvement. The night that I needed the ambulance, the first person on the scene was Steve Peters, the deputy sheriff, was an EMT that we immediately got CPR. The second person on the scene was the fire chief, David Ray, with his daughter that was being a nurse. I was fortunate. We had a full ambulance crew show up. We got her to the hospital. That's kind of where things dropped a little bit because the doctor on call for the ER room at the hospital lives in Anaconda. So there was a time frame there waiting for the doctor to get here. I think we had already made up the mind that she wasn't going to survive the incident. The helicopter was here. It didn't land, but the helicopter was actually here before the doctor got here. So, it is very community. I had more people in my house. I know I missed names because I had a full house of people. And that was, Steve Peters was there within 45 seconds. David was probably there within a minute and a half. So there is a tremendous amount of community involvement in it. I think we just need to get out in the community to let it out that we've got some problems. And I think what Jordan's come up with is a start. I mean, it is a starting place. We need somebody there, you know. The funny thing about him, when I volunteered with him, he's a workaholic. He had me up here all times of the day and stuff, going through, making sure the meds were not expired and everything else. He's kind of the glue that kept it together. And when he left to go to Billings and Jason Wingo left, then things started to deteriorate because of the dedication. And I don't blame Jason, because I spent 8 hours one time with him on the ambulance that he gave up what he was doing, his job to support him. And I understand that. Volunteering is hard. And when everybody works, when you really need it, that makes it even harder to get good volunteers. So anyway, that's all I want to say.
Okay, thanks. Well, that's a good discussion.
One quick.
Okay.
Might I suggest that the county and the town of Phillipsburg and the town of Drummond have a special session or two or three, and we invite Jordan to come speak to us, because in my opinion, he is the biggest expert in the room on this issue. And then we can hammer this out, invite the hospital, as opposed to us just meeting once a quarter. We need to have special sessions where we work on this issue. Just my opinion.
Okay, any other comments? Then I'll take the last comment. Money isn't an issue with me. I will find the money. We will find the money. Someplace, like I say, we got Phil, we got whatever. And then we can work in the, like they're talking, they can work on grants or whatever, that position. But I'm not gonna condemn somebody laying there helpless out there in their house or whatever.
Well, it's a discussion.
Maybe nobody there, or
that's all this
just one person.
Is a discussion.
You saying I am?
No, I'm not.
Just kidding.
But I'm not going to. But anyway, that's where I'm at.
Good, fine.
So, nothing else?
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, people. Appreciate it.
Recording stopped.
Recording still. So there you go. So everything is it's 12:15. The meeting, the issue, agenda item at 11:30, County Shop in Phillipsburg, encroachment proposal, final agreement, discussion and decision. Now, if there was anybody here with that, it'd be like, tough luck, kids. Too bad. This is the way a meeting is conducted. Is this me? So, these people are here. They're gonna be, let's see if they all start dropping out. And is it going to be put on again? Did they come up with any decision? Are we going to put it on the agenda? Are we going to have this or anything like that? Nothing. Now she's got the screen sharing up. Let's see. I wonder if she's going to knock us all out. This is going to be interesting if she knocks us out. I'm going to see if she knocks us out. Let's see if she does this.
You have to go back on
Recording in progress.
We're back and talking. What is this?
We're back on. We missed the 11:30 County Shop Phillipsburg encroachment proposal, and we were told to table it. So it was tabled, and this is just official notice.
This is the official.
Goodbye.
Recording stopped.
I mean, this is just unbelievable. Recording stopped. Goodbye. Let's see what happens. Let's just for the hell of it. You see, all these people are still on, right? We've got 8 minus these 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So then you've got me, 1, Jordan White, 2, call in user, whatever that is, and Robert Medoff. Okay. So it must be killing her. How do I end this? Are you going to end it, Billy? Or are you going to just leave it like this? This is cool. Anyway, I'm going to, what was the word that he uses? At ease. Oh, stand at ease. We're going to stand at ease. I didn't know we were at attention. Stand at ease. All right, so I'm going to, see, you can't do the chat, so that's nothing. So I'm going to stand at ease. Stand at ease.